first free practice session of the day. As usual, there are 2 free practice sessions on Friday before tomorrow we go qualifying in the morning, ready for the first race of the weekend in the afternoon, and we do the same again on Sunday. Welcome then to the second half of the 2026 DTM season. This, of course, over the last couple of years has been the venue for the opening round of the championship, but this year it's the venue for the start of part 2 of what has been a thoroughly dramatic, intense and unpredictable start to the 2026 season. There you can see the circuit's pretty overcast here today. The weather is going to be much warmer tomorrow. Could be up to 27 degrees. It'll get better as the day goes on today, but it's pretty chilly actually today, overcast, and with 1 or 2 rain clouds hovering around as well. And then on Sunday, it's sort of in between. It should be about 23 degrees, so a nice pleasant day, but not too hot, although another heat wave is on the way, apparently in the coming weeks here in Germany. This then is a circuit which only opened back in 1997, just under 30 years ago, but was Germany's 4th permanent race circuit after the Nürburgring, Hockenheim and the Sachsenring. So it's got some history here. It is kind of feels like an old school circuit in that it doesn't have, I mean, it does have grandstands, but it doesn't have big, huge grandstands like a lot of the German circuits. Has lots of grass banking, and the spectators get pretty close to the action. Here, you're only ever between 6 and 8 meters above the height of the circuit, so all the spectators are pretty close to the ground, pretty close to the track. It is not the fastest circuit on the calendar, Oschersleben, but it does offer plenty of interest. They'll get up to a top speed around the quicker sections here of about 240 kilometres an hour. These cars can do 260 kilometres an hour. So the first sector in particular, and well, most of the second sector is pretty fiddly, lots of twisty, tight turns, especially the first corner, which is basically a 90-degree left-hand turn before they sweep into the big arcing right-hander at the Hotelkurve. Then they go into the infield section, which includes a triple left-hander. The triple section includes a chicane, which is pretty spectacular as they run out onto the first of the straights, the back straight, to go up to about 230 kilometres an hour. They can see that infield section. There's the back straight to the left that I was talking about. Then it's a right, left and S-bend section, and then a double right to end the lap before you come onto the start-finish line, which is there on the right-hand side of your picture. It's a pretty unusual pit lane exit from this circuit as well, which can cause things to back up. It's 3.667 kilometres long, and nobody ever really seems to dominate here. So since we turned to GT3 cars in the DTM back in 2021, we've only been here 3 times because we weren't here in 21 or 22. So 2023 was the first time we came here in this era. And since then, we've had 6 different race winners from 6 races. Nicki Thiim, as you can see, is the new championship leader off the back of an amazing weekend at the Norrisring for the Dane, for the Come To You racing team, for Aston Martin, who not only picked up their first DTM race victory, they picked up a pair of them. And Nicki Thiim is absolutely on fire at the moment. He's been on pole for 3 of the last 4 races. He shot to the top of the championship standings, and if he could go to the Norrisring every single weekend, I reckon he'd definitely like to do that, because that's where all 3 of his race wins have come. But as ever, one of the beauties of the DTM is that the circuits that we have are all very different to one another. So you might well have a great weekend at one circuit. It doesn't mean that you're going to carry that form through to the next weekend. So Oschersleben, as I say, the 6 different race winners from the last 6 races in the GT3 era that we've had. Overall, we have also had wide open results in terms of pole positions, where we've had 6 different drivers on pole from the last 6 qualifying sessions. And in terms of podiums as well, there's only Jack Aitken really that has over the years, and of course not racing this season of the DTM, managed to get more than 1 or 2 podiums. He's had 3 podiums here over the years. So it's a very wide open racetrack in terms of the results, in terms of what we can expect. Porsche, although they've struggled this year, got a pretty good record in terms of podiums here, and they need a good weekend off the back of a couple of lacklustre weekends at the Norrisring and the Lausitzring. So Maro Engel and Lucas Auer, the 2 Mercedes drivers, are the 2 closest to Nicki Thiim's Aston Martin in terms of the championship. Maro, who is one of 4 drivers that's been the championship leader at some point this season, he's got 108 points, 9 behind, that's all. Nicki Thiim, remember, it's 25 points for each race win, 3 points for each pole position. Only 11 points behind Nicki Thiim is Lucas Auer, who's also been the championship leader this year. He is last last year's runner-up in the championship. He's on 106 points. Then Matteo Caroli has also been a championship leader. He had a tough weekend at the Norris Ring as well, so he's down to 4th place on 83 points. Marco Wittmann and Ben Durr, who's been pretty sensational so far this season, the 21-year-old, they round out the top 6. So the car's heading out for what is the longer of the 2 free practice sessions here, 55 minutes long. We get a 45-minute session later on today. Here's that slightly unusual pit lane exit that I'll talk about, which is when you're coming out in the middle of the race, especially on Sunday, we've got these 2 pit stops. That is a real pinch point there, so it could be some interesting drama there over the course of the weekend. So we're here at the circuit. We are in the commentary box just beyond the pit lane, and we're looking at the cars out on circuit. My name is Chris Hartley. Alongside me, as ever, is Brian Oliver. Brian, did I miss much at the Norris Ring when I wasn't there? I don't think much happened, did it?
Morning, Chris. No, it was pretty quiet, really. Nothing much happened at all. Wow, what a weekend it was. Well, if you will go to Silverstone, I mean, come on. It was a spectacular weekend around the streets of Nuremberg. Of course, Nicki Thiim, who I would say coming into that last round was not really in the championship hunt. And now suddenly he's the championship leader. Oh, how quickly things can turn around. Did that very rare thing, became only the 2nd driver in the history of the GT3 era of DTM to get a maximum point score, 56 points. I mean, nobody was ever going to live with him. Just to prove that Come To You Racing are doing a great job, and it wasn't a fluke. And the weekend after at the Nürburgring, the GT Masters, they did it again with Baudouin Detu and Jamie Day also taking a win. And Nicki Thiim was presenting them with the trophy, so there was a nice kind of rounded feel to that. But yes, I mean, Norris Ring was spectacular, and so much drama. The weather played its part as well. And of course, we did also have that fairly sizable accident in race 1, and it does mean that this weekend we've only got 20 cars on the grid, and we see get well soon to Max Powell. Pleased to see that he is making a good recovery. Pleased to see Kelvin van der Linde is back this weekend as well. But it had a bit of everything, really.
Yeah, as tends to be the case at the Norris Ring, and a bit of mixed weather as well. Just to echo that, our love and best wishes to Max Powell, and really hope that he gets well and gets fit and gets back on the racetrack as soon as possible. I don't think it's going to be a short-term thing, but he's a determined character, is Max Powell, and he will be back, there's no doubt about it. But yeah, very serious injuries. He's got 2 broken bones, tibia and fibula in his lower legs, fractured vertebrae as well, but he will get on the mend, he will get back. They were looking to try and get another driver in the car at Grassa, but the issue wasn't getting a driver, it was getting the spare parts for the Temerario to get the car back on the road, and they haven't been able to do that. It's too long a lead time. I think that will be the case at the Nürburgring. There will be 2 Grassa Lamborghinis. We'll be back up to 21 cars. I'd be interested to see who they get in the car, but for 20 cars this weekend. And also great to see that Kelvin van der Linde has managed to get back, because he was, of course, the other driver involved in that incident, if you haven't seen it, on the way into the first hairpin on the Saturday, just hitting an oil slick. Max Powell, oil that had been dropped onto the track, and it was like being on ice. Hit the brakes and just didn't de-accelerate at all, and from miles back went into the side of Kelvin van der Linde's Schubert BMW. The door exploded off. It was a huge impact. Of course, Kelvin would have no time to brace for that whatsoever. He was taken to hospital as well, but thankfully it was mainly just bruising for Kelvin. And boy, did he bounce back in the GT World Challenge. Yes, that was amazing. So he comes back after that horror show, gets back into a race car, goes to Misano in the GT World Challenge, and wins both of the races. Absolutely. I mean, I think he put something on his Instagram after the accident, like, it takes a lot more than this to keep a South African down, a Safa down, he said. And boy, oh boy, that just showed the spirit of the man, didn't it? To come back like that and win both the races, absolutely amazing. So we're very pleased to have him back. It has not turned into the season Kelvin, I'm sure, was expecting. He's had a mega last season with BMW, didn't he? Pretty much everything he entered. Come back to the DTM. Of course, Schubert are always a strong team. Would have been absolutely going for the championship this year after finishing as the runner-up a couple of years ago. But he's now had, from the 8 races, 3 retirements and 1 non-start. He's had the one win, the one highlight at Zandvoort, but it's been a really tough season. And not to say he's out of the championship, but it's 54 points is all he's got at the moment. He's 63 points adrift. He's 12th in the championship. But for my money, that makes him quite dangerous, because he's just going to be going out there and treating each race as a race and trying to win a race, isn't he?
Yeah, he's just going to go for silverware, really. And you know that he will bounce back, and he proved that at Misano last weekend with that back-to-back win in GT World Challenge Europe. Just as a side note, he did that alongside Charles Vier. It'd be nice to see him in a DTM someday. Moving on from that. But yes, Kelvin van der Linde, certainly Schubert Motorsport. They did prepare the car, or they got a car for the Sunday at Norrisring. They went and got the Holsum twins GT Masters car, but I think once the painkillers and the adrenaline had worn off from Kelvin van der Linde, he realised quite how bruised he was, and I think it was very wise. He retired back to his home near Cologne and went to bed, I think, and I think that was a very wise move. But as you say, he's kind of got nothing to lose, really, so it's going to be all out. Of course, this is Schubert Motorsport's home track, where historically they don't do especially well, and Kelvin would love to be the one to turn that one around. Schubert Motorsport got loads of guests here this weekend, and you drive around this region, you see loads of Schubert garages around as well. They would love to get a BMW on the podium, or even a win, and Kelvin van der Linde might just be in the mood for that, especially after last weekend.
Yeah, I think so. And a couple of years ago, Marco Wittmann almost won a race here, didn't he? A fuel issue right at the end of the race where he was winning. We just see Jules Gounon as well, making his way down the pit lane. No, another one who's had a season to forget so far, really. I mean, not just in this championship, but all year long, it feels like if Jules Gounon didn't have bad luck, he wouldn't have any luck at all. It's got to change at some point, though. He's too good a driver. You can't keep a good man down. Let's get his team radio.
Something broke on the car.
Oh, you are
I think
joking.
we're right puncture.
You are joking.
I mean, he had a lot of bad luck last weekend in GT World Challenge Europe, but then in the second race actually got a second place. So he's another one who it doesn't need much of an invitation to suddenly be there on the podium, but he does seem to have an awful lot of bad luck at the moment, and we would love to see. I mean, I was predicting his first race win last year. I feel like I put a curse on him slightly.
He still hasn't got a podium this year, which is incredible, really, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. He's not here to make up the numbers. He's always been a championship contender, championship challenger, and everything he's ever entered. And when he came into DTM, we were like, okay, watch out, everybody, because Jules is going to be there. But you need to have that luck to go with it, don't you?
Absolutely, because most other sports, if you lose, it's because you made a mistake or maybe your opponent was a bit better on the day. In this, there's 1,000 things that can go wrong that are totally out of control of the race driver, be they any part of the car that has a problem, any part of the setup that has a problem, bad luck, which is a thing, absolutely. You can be in the wrong place at the wrong time, you can pick up debris on the circuit, get a puncture at the wrong time, you get squeezed by somebody else's mistake, all sorts of things. So sometimes you just seem to have these runs of bad luck. But he's back at Oschersleben, which is where he got his first ever podium in the DTM. Got a second place finish here, didn't he? And got his one and only pole position came here as well, good on. So hopefully that podium is knocking on the door. It's going to be around the corner. We've seen some onboard shots of Ben Durr, the 21-year-old, has been sensational. Just missed out last year to Maurice scoring on the Rookie of the Year title. That went right down to the last race of the season, because we will talk about the last race of the season and what happened, and the great victory and the great story and the great drama with Angel Gilman winning the championship. But it was almost as close in the final fight for the rookie championship. Ben just missed out in the end, but boy oh boy, he's come back this year. We all thought he got his first podium at the Sachsenring last year, and then on a technicality the team was disqualified. Ben has come back this year. Bad luck in the first race, getting involved in contact where he qualified on the front row of the grid at the Red Bull Ring, but since then super consistent. 7th in race 2 at the Red Bull Ring, the car being worked on overnight to get it fixed, and then a 2nd and a 5th, his first podium at Zandvoort, and then he followed it up with a first ever win at the Lausitzring. I think maybe it hasn't gone quite so well since then, but still in the top 6 in the championship. Given that he was racing karts in the German championship only 5 years ago, it's pretty impressive given the quality of the field that he's up against and all the experience that most of them have. If it's not in the DTM, it's in driving these types of cars in other series.
Yeah, I mean, what an incredible ascendancy it has been. Interestingly, he, along with teammate Timo Glock, were here. They took their Joker test days here last week, along with Kelvin van der Linde as well. So they have tested here. So looking for data, looking for the setup. We talked about Jules Gounon, he along with Maro Engel, Thomas Preining, Ricardo Feller and Bastian Buus. They have taken Nürburgring as their Joker test session. But I'd be interested to see whether DTM Motorsport have managed to find anything here. Timo Glock, another one. We talk about bad luck. I mean, it's now getting to the levels of insane, the amount of bad luck he's having. The oil line coming off at Norrisring was just the latest in a catalogue of issues. And I was reading just before we came on air about how they've got data to suggest that he is just slower in a straight line. The car is slower in a straight line than that of Ben Durr. So not the driver, but there is a discrepancy between the cars. And he does seem to have issues with the machinery and would dearly love to turn it around. And the many fans who come here, he has such a legion of supporters who come to support him. They would love it if Timo Glock could get on the podium, wouldn't they?
It's got to happen one day, hasn't it? Former DTM race winner at this circuit back in the Class 1 era. So Thomas Preining has set the fastest lap of the session so far. We saw that just happening. He's going even quicker on this lap. Look, 2 personal bests and absolute best in sectors 1 and 2. It's about a 10th up on his own lap time. Nicki Thiim is starting to charge as well, the championship leader. I'm going to say that for Nicki as many times as I can this weekend. Championship leader Nicki Thiim and Thomas Preining with a 1:23.4. Now in FP1 last year, bearing in mind on a different tyre, this is a new tyre this year, slightly stickier, slightly softer, slightly quicker in theory. The tyre from Pirelli that's produced just for the championship as Tommy Preining goes half a tenth quicker than he went before, 1:23.344. Thomas was quickest in free practice 1 last year. Pretty similar weather conditions with a bit cooler, 12 degrees air temperature, but it wasn't super hot, wasn't super cold. Track temperature was 13 degrees at this time last year. Bearing in mind it was the start of the season, and he was quickest with a 1:22.596, so not bad. We're already only 0.8 of a second away from that. Nicki Thiim pushing the Aston Martin to the limits on the way out of the final turn, goes over the line. That's a 1:24.1, which puts him in 7th place. We've seen Maro Engel creeping up the timing screens, going into 3rd place. Maro was the driver that was quickest in free practice 2 last year, which was a quicker session with a 1:22.3. So those are the sorts of times, banging him on a different tyre at a different time of year last year with slightly different temperatures. The mid 1:22s were the fastest times in free practice last year. In terms of the tyre allowance, it's 3 sets of new Pirelli tyres for Saturday and Sunday. So you've got the 3 sets to last you 2 qualifyings and 2 races. There's a different system that we have for testing and free practice tyres. All the teams and drivers have an allocation of tyres for the season, and they get given tyres for every test session. Whether they use them or not, they have to give a certain amount of tyres back. So it's up to you whether you keep good tyres. And so, in theory, you are allowed to have up to 3. So you can have 3 sets of tyres for free practice. In theory, if you've been smart about it, if you've done it the right way, you could have 3 sets of new tyres for free practice. We don't know what all the teams have got. It used to be the case that you'd have 1 set of new tyres and everything else would be used tyres for free practice. But some teams might have 2, maybe even 3 sets of new tyres for these free practice sessions. Right then, Luca Exler we're on board with now. Got his maiden race victory here at Oschersleben, and he's been one of the leading lights so far this year, hasn't he, in that Lamborghini Temerario. He stayed positive even when they struggled with the car at the start of the year. He said, no, we can get this sorted, and it has started to make good progress in the last few rounds of the championship, particularly at Zandvoort and the Lausitz-ring.
Yeah, he's been amongst the front runners of the Temerario drivers, hasn't he? And really good to see that they're getting on top of that car. Just looping back a little bit to the tyres, the new tyre, the Pirelli DHG tyre. I was just reading what Thomas Preining was saying about that in the week, and he was suggesting that the new tyre is better longitudinally, and therefore retains the grip through the corner, something that the Porsche used to be able to capitalise on. It used to be so good through the corners, but this tyre, because it's better in a longitudinal direction. It means the other cars have got more an advantage in the corners. I thought it was quite interesting coming from Thomas Preining. I would just credit Motorsport Total, by the way, who provide a lot of the information that I just repeat, regurgitate.
Yeah, Sven does a sterling job, doesn't he?
Does a great job. So thank you to him. He doesn't get nearly as much credit as he should, because I just steal all his information. But he'd spoken to Thomas Preining about that, and I just thought it was quite interesting that, and we know, without going into the BOP thing, Thomas has been fairly grumpy about the BOP at the moment, and was very frustrated at the Norris Ring. Was talking about, I can't wait to go on holiday, I've had enough, I want to give up. And I think every driver goes through that.
It's a track where he's been strong in the past, where he's been a race winner in the past as well at the Norris Ring.
Yeah, and he had benefited from a full course yellow, as we see Matteo Cairoli into the pits there. He'd benefited from that full course yellow that put him up into a really strong position, and he wasn't able to capitalise on it. And I think the frustration really started to boil over, and he was perhaps a little bit more vocal than he might have chosen to be in hindsight. But yeah, I mean, it's with this new tyre, and we've also got the BMW, which has got the different turbocharger this year as well. Yeah. So there's a lot of variables, and it feels like a bit of a reset on the BOP front, where we're trying to find a level almost to where to operate from. And nothing to do with me, but the SRO BOP is where it comes from. But trying to find that level really, and find where everything is in relation to each other.
On board with Arjun Maini, great weekend as well for him. Finn Fiebelhaus and the HRT squad as well, and both in the top 10 of the championship now. A pole position, a podium, and a fourth for Arjun, one of his best overall weekends in the DTM. He's had a double podium previously as a HRT Mercedes driver at the Red Bull Ring, but a really good weekend for Arjun. That first win, he's agonisingly close, you feel, for Arjun, but it was great for him to get the podium off the back of Finn Fiebelhaus getting the first ever podium for HRT Ford Mustang the previous weekend at the Lausitz Ring, and their form great as well. So Arjun's last 4 races at the Lausitz Ring and the Norris Ring, 9th, 4th, 3rd, 4th, plus those points for qualifying that he got. Finn Fiebelhaus had a retirement in race 1 at the Lausitz Ring, but since then 3rd, 6th and 2nd, real sensation. So he's up to 10th place in the championship. Yeah, just going back to those tyres, longitudinally, what he means is the length of the forward and backward side of the tyre, not the width of the tyre, not the sideways movement for the tyre. So essentially saying that the tyre is grippier under braking. Now the Porsche has always been famously not the quickest of the GT3 cars in a straight line. And Thomas has always been pretty vocal about the fact that I've got no straight line speed, but it's a very agile car, it's very good under braking, and he's been able to make up a lot of the time in the past. I mean, Manthey have won 2 drivers' championships out of the last 3, 2 teams' championships out of the last 3, and the car has been competitive pretty much everywhere. But it's always lacked in the straight line. But now what he's saying is, well, now this tyre is grippier. Yes, it's great for us, and we've got less issues than we had before with the handling of the car, but so is everybody else. And now it's much easier for them to brake. They've all got better braking performance because of this stickier tyre, and that sort of leveled the playing field in terms of the car speed through the corners, into the corners. But we're still slower in a straight line than everybody else, which is why he's been calling out for a change of BOP to say, look, we're struggling compared to everybody else. We used to be able to make it up in the corners, we can't now. And you mentioned the change of the turbocharger, which, without going into too much detail, one of the key things on that BMW is that it seems to get quicker as the weekend goes on. So it's quite hard to classify it because it's never quite where you think it's going to be. And we've seen that before, and we've seen it, I mean, quite a lot in the past, in fairness, not just this year, with the BMWs not being great in qualifying. It was all year last year. It felt like they had bad qualifying, but good races. And Marco Wittmann's kind of done the same a lot this season. Not qualified well, but actually charged through in the races. But Marco was another one that was a bit grumpy about the way it went, given that it's never really been a great car at the Norris Ring for whatever reason. And it's a big, long wheelbase car, that BMW. But so too is the Ford Mustang, so too is the Aston, and they both had great weekends there. The BMW has always really struggled in the last few years at the Norris Ring. And that was, I'm afraid, the case again. He only got the points for a 10th place finish because there are no points for Kelvin, a non-finish, a non-start, 1 non-finish for Marco Wittmann, and just 1 10th place finish, and 6 points was all he scored. So he was 7 points behind the championship lead after 2 weekends. He's now 40 points off the championship lead. And as you say, this is not necessarily one of the strongest circuits for the BMW, is it?
No, but it can turn around, as we saw with Nicki Thiim last weekend, in the blink of an eye, and anything can happen, and often does. And we're kind of a little bit in unknown territory at the moment, and there is no doubt that they will be working hard to turn this one around. Certainly in Norris Ring, last time out, Marco Wittmann had a sizable supporters club there. The entire grandstand was green in his Schaeffler colours. Yeah. And you know, there's an element of just patience and working this one out, and it will turn around. And I'm convinced we're going to see BMW doing something good here at Oschersleben, potentially this weekend or sometime soon. As the track starts to get a little busier now, that's a great view of that turn one, that tricky turn one. I'm very pleased there was a point where they were looking at using that right-angled section into turn one, the left hand.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it there, with the white lines. So it's pretty much 90 degrees now, but it is actually 90 degrees, that old corner, isn't it?
But they were talking about, for a long time, remember last year, it was set to be, we were going to use that configuration, and we've decided to go back to the more sweeping into the hotel turn 2, which is a really technical turn. The idea of using the more right angle corner would be to slow the cars down more, because we do sometimes get some fairly large accidents into turn 2.
Nicki Thiim was one, wasn't he? He had a big one in quali, didn't he, a couple of years ago in the SSR Lamborghini.
Carrying so much speed because they're coming straight off the pit straight into that. But I'm kind of pleased they haven't opted for the absolute right hander, because
it looks a bit tight.
It would have been. I mean, it would have been quite fun for lap 1. I'm not sure there have been many cars for lap 2 after that.
No, you know, we'd quite like some clean, non-accident in racing after
absolutely,
Norris Ring, weren't we?
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
No, but a lot of people sort of slightly deride Oschersleben, but I like to say. I mean, it might have the most overtaking opportunities. It might not have the absolute top speed of some of the circuits, the absolute flat-out corners, but I think it's got a lot to offer in terms of the whole atmosphere of the place. As I say, it feels like the crowd, which is going to be a big one this weekend. We had 48,000 last year. We might go bigger than that this year. It feels like they're close by. It feels like a kind of real amphitheatre. I really love the chicane that goes out onto the turns 9 and 10, or 8, 9 and 10 that goes onto the back straight. It's pretty spectacular as the cars hurled through there, trying to straight line it as much as possible to get the speed out onto the back straight. I enjoy the Triple S section. I like the hotel curve, it's technical, and so it's all about the exit speed there. So I think it's got a lot to offer this circuit. We've had some good racing here in the past. At the moment, Thomas Preining is quickest with that 123.344. Maro Engel, who's in the pits, second with a 123.503. Börde in the McLaren third, 123.526. That's only 23 thousandths of a second behind Maro Engel's best time. He's in the pits. Ricardo Feller is fourth quickest, a Manthey teammate to Thomas Preining. He has done a 123.532, and with a wobbly 23.533, a thousandth of a second behind him, is Luigi Auer, who's seen pushing his car to the limits, and no doubt this is what we're about to see for the 2024 champion Mirko Bortolotti. Yes, pushing the car right to the limits, the Italian. I was really impressed to read that after that big accident at the Norris Ring, Mirko Bortolotti went to the hospital to visit not just his teammate and friend Max Powell. They did get along well, those two, but he took the time out to go and visit and wish well Kelvin van der Linde as well. So for all the rivalry that those two have, and they are big rivals, those two, we've spoken to Kelvin, we've spoken to Mirko. They want nothing more than to beat the other driver, do they, those two, after their fearsome battle for the 2024 championship. But at the end of the day, they're human beings, they're good people, and you see the human side of things there away from the racetrack, don't you?
It's lovely, isn't it? And we saw on screen René Rast and Sheldon van der Linde were in the garage at Schubert Motorsport when that accident occurred, and René was another one who went to visit Kelvin van der Linde. I believe he brought him home from hospital. That would have been a wild ride as well, I should think.
Probably going quite easy, to be fair.
Yes.
Avoiding any potholes.
Or heavy braking. Yeah. Yes. Go back to the circuit here. Look at Marco Wittmann straight lining the chicane. This is great. I'm with you on this. It's a track that some people go, oh, Oschersleben, not really heard of it. It is. I kind of feel like it's one of the great secrets of Germany. And you look there at that banking on the right-hand side. you can stand on that banking and look down on the track. Where else can you do that? You can see the people starting to come in at the moment. I mean, it's early-ish on Friday morning, so the crowd haven't really turned up yet. As you say, they will do in a bit. But this banking all the way around means you can look down on the circuit. You get a great perspective. You also don't have many issues with track limits here, because if you exceed track limits, you're either going to be in a gravel trap or in a barrier. And it's the old school is a bit of a cliche word to use, but it is like racetracks used to be, and always creates good racing here.
I mean this, somebody's found the limit and gone a bit beyond. I mean this in a positive sense, because my whole background is in kart racing. It's like a big kart track, this place, and I mean that in a positive way. I really like it. And the paddock, everything feels close by. There's a really good atmosphere in there. The fans are superb as well. So yeah, a lot to be said for Oschersleben. Marco Wittmann then needs to get his championship fight back on the road. But as you say, BMW, well, the last 6 years since GT3 cars came here, BMWs haven't had a win, they haven't had a pole, and they haven't had a podium.
No.
So wins by brand. Lamborghini have had 2, Porsche have had 2, Ferrari and Mercedes 1 each. Pole positions by brand in the last 3 years here, last 6 races. Lamborghini have had 2 poles, Mercedes 2, Ferrari 1, Porsche 1. Podiums, Porsche 6. They've done well for podiums. They had a 1, 2, 3 one year as well. So 6 podiums for Porsche, 5 for Mercedes. One of those cars that seems to be, if it's not the quickest, it's one of the quickest everywhere, isn't it? The old Merc, the trusty old Mercedes, quick everywhere. Lamborghini 4 podiums here, but of course with the Huracan, which we're not using anymore, we've got Temerario. Ferrari have had 2, and Audi have had 1. So yeah, I'd say almost winning a race here, Marco Wittmann. And of course, it's Schubert's home race as well. This, isn't it? This is their nearest circuit. They're not based very far away at all.
Yeah, as I already mentioned, lots of guests here as well. You look down at that hotel corner, you can see how tricky it is. It's actually a really technical corner, and drivers really struggle to get it right, to get a setup. It's a very fast technical corner, and getting a high-speed entry into it, getting around it, and a decent racing line. It is quite a skill, and it's a good perspective there from up above of that corner. So everybody out, well, most drivers out on track at the moment. We've got a few in the pits. There is Thierry Vermeulen. We briefly saw Nicki Thiim. He considers this to be his home circuit. Apparently it's 4 hours from Denmark, so he's got his family here as well. So that's another thing to give him yet more confidence, like he needs it, as we ride on board with him now out along the back straight towards the Shell curve. And Nicki, like he needs any more confidence. I spoke to him briefly at the Nürburgring 2 weekends ago at the GT Masters event, and he was buzzing. He was still in disbelief. It's just like a complete dream, and he was absolutely buzzing about it, and so excited to be the championship leader.
It's great to see somebody loving and enjoing success and getting a win, isn't it, Ron? Just got a win and
another
blah,
day
blah,
at the
blah.
office.
Yeah, he absolutely loves it. Yeah, he's a real character. He's Nicki, great guy.
Yeah.
On which note, I said I'd tee you up for this, Brian. So DTM on their brilliant social channels, they've started doing these ask a question to the driver features. So you can send in a question, and Nicki Thiim was the subject this week, and a fan of DTM by the name of Mr. Jay Gunon, might have heard of him, sent a question in to Nicki Thiim. What was his question, Brian?
His question was, do you use a beard conditioner?
Do you use beard oils? Fantastic.
Yeah, there were lots of great questions from fans, but I have to say, Jules Gunon did steal the show with that one.
He's a very, very funny guy.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. And we like the quickfire questions and the random questions. We had to find out a bit about the driver, so we'll report back to you when we do find out whether he does actually use any kind of beard conditioning or beard oil or whatever.
I've got to go and find Jules, actually, because before the World Cup started, they asked all the DTM drivers, who's going to win the World Cup? And of course, Jules said, oh, of course it's going to be France. Well, they didn't even finish third.
Oh, no, didn't they?
No,
did they not?
I can't remember which team beat them to third place, which is the position everybody wants to finish in the World Cup. Third place is obviously the key position to finish in.
Yes, well, it's
I think
golden.
I think it was a close game. 1 or 2 goals in it, wasn't there?
I wouldn't know. You can go and ask it.
Right, Preining, 1:23.344, still from earlier on. I'm not going to mention Germany in the World Cup.
No,
they'll win the
don't do that.
They'll win the next one. They've got Jurgen Klopp in charge now. So Maro Engel.
You'll need a bodyguard out the circuit if you do that.
Maro Engel. Football was the winner, wasn't it, in the end?
It is, yes. That's right. That's the right answer.
Bender, I was Spanish for one day. Bender third. Ricardo Fella fourth. Luigi Auer, who's seen looking pretty on edge in his Mercedes through a couple of corners. He's in pits at the moment. He's in fifth place. Just to go back to that, second to fifth, you've got a whole 30 thousandths of 1 second between those four drivers, between Maro Engel, Bender, Ricardo Fella and Luigi Auer. So, yes, it's close. And looking down the board, we've got the top 15 separated by just 9/10 of a second. I know it's only free practice. But the thing is, it'll probably get closer and closer as the weekend goes on when we get to qualifying. Speaking of which, Nicki Thiim, I mentioned, well, I just talked about his race wins. I mentioned briefly at the start of the broadcast, 3 poles out of the last 4 and a third. So he, from scoring no points in qualifying for the first 4 qualifying sessions of the year, the last 4 qualifying sessions, he's picked up 10 very useful championship points with 3 points for a pole, it's 2 for a second and 1 for a third. Now that's the equivalent of a 6th place finish in a race. That's like an extra race that you're getting on everybody else there. That's really useful. So yeah, you won't be surprised to find he's the driver that scored the most points from qualifying this year, followed by Arjun Maini, who's also been pretty sensational in qualifying of late. Second, first, third, his last 4 qualifying positions. So he's got 7 points from qualifying as well, which has helped him up to 7th in the championship. To go through the other point, Winwood are leading the team's championship. They've got 162 points. Emil Frey are second on 141. And HRT are up to third place now on 126, just a point above Schubert, who are fourth. Mercedes defending manufacturers championship winners from last year. Got a nice lead now, Mercedes, with this consistency that they've got. They are on 221 points. They are 91 points clear of BMW, who are second. Of Porsche, who are second on 138 points. Then we've got the Rookie of the Year. Finn Wiebelhaus went from third to first last week, end at the Norris Ring. So he's on 208 points, ahead of Nicola Bart on 194, and Tom Callender is down to third on 177 after a tough weekend. And the Pit Stop Challenge, 15 points for Manthey. Emil Frey second now on 14. They led it for the first half, for the first 2/3 of the season so far. They're well clear of the rest. Schubert a third on 7. They've had top 3 fastest pit stops in 5 races so far, Schubert. And then Come To You Racing, which is the whole point of me coming to this. It wasn't just about the driving the car on track, was it? It was about the pit stops for Come To You Racing, because they had the fastest pit stop of all, which is the first time they've done that, at the Norris Ring on Saturday, and they're the second fastest pit stop on Sunday. So they're up to 4th in the pit stop challenge now, but having had no top 3 fastest pit stops so far, they then had 2 in one weekend at the Norris Ring, and that really helped Nicki Thiim, didn't it, in the end? Because it was actually a really close finish in the end, wasn't it, in race 2?
Yeah, it absolutely was, because Finn Wiebelhaus was chasing him all the way, but a 5.8 second pit stop for Come To You Racing. They pulled the rabbit out of the hat just when they needed to there. Here is the aforementioned Finn Wiebelhaus bouncing over the curbs. And crazy to think that 6 years ago he was racing in karts, and he has been the first driver to complete the road to DTM. Of course, won the GT Masters Championship last year, has already had those 2 podiums, leads the way in the rookies. Really, really impressive. And Manuel Reuter, who's very much banging the drum for Finn Wiebelhaus in the Mustang. I was going to mention, you spoke about Arjun Maini earlier, the other of the Mustang drivers. He and David Schumacher started in the German Kart Championship last week in Ampfing, and that's really important because that is part of the road to DTM. HRT, who have a team in that karting championship with Arena E Sachsenring, the junior team, and they are taking drivers from karting and then feeding them up through the ranks, potentially into BMW M2 Cup, GT4 Germany, GT Masters, DTM. But Arjun and David Schumacher, I thought, I'll check in, see how they do. They are going to absolutely wipe the floor with these youngsters. I think it was a bit of a rude awakening, actually. And I just think Arjun will be quite happy to get back onto the DTM grid. I think it was not easy. They were working hard. to stay with the pack. I have to say, it was great to see, though, that Arjun going back to the roots, really, and really inspiring the people around it. And some of the interviews, some of them were in English, so I actually understood them. But the people were like, whoa, I'm racing Arjun Miney. How cool is this? I'm racing David Schumacher.
Fantastic.
And it was really good. And I love that. I love the looping back and the road to DTM almost kind of looping back on itself. And what a great structure the ADAC have built to do that now. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, and he did it all with a smile on his face, wouldn't he, Arjun?
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Yeah, karting. This is the rawest form of motorsport. It's pure motorsport, in my opinion. And you still got Fernando Alonso, still goes karting whenever he can. Yeah. After everything he's achieved, he just loves doing it. Loves the sport. It's a sport within its own right still, but it's a great way to get your career underway, which is where, of course, the vast majority of these drivers start. In fact, Jules Gounon putting in a lap a little while ago and going even quicker at the moment to get towards the 122s. Might just do it on this lap, but 123.1. He's done it. He's done a 122.972 as he crosses the line. So he's the first one into the 122.9's Jules Gounon. That's put him nearly 0.4 of a second up on Thomas Preining, who we can see has just gone back out into the circuit. There's the penalty zone, which is hopefully something they're all going to avoid this weekend, but probably won't.
Yes.
That's on the way out of turn 3. You have to go through that at 50 kilometres an hour. It costs you about 5 seconds. So great to see Arjun out there. I mean, obviously it was probably the BOP that was the reason they weren't the quickest 2 drivers in those karts. Can't even blame that.
Yes, quite. Yes, they had to turn the turbo down on it. Apparently, yeah.
Just to go back to Finn Wiebelhaus though. So I wasn't at Norris Ring. I was at Silverstone, but I was obviously keeping an eye on what was going on. It was quite a good race.
You were at the Lando Norris Ring, weren't you?
Charles Leclerc ring.
Charles
Leclerc was the Ferrari ring, 250th race win for Ferrari, which is pretty special to be at. So keeping an eye on the results, and I saw on Sunday Finn Wiebelhaus second place, and I thought to myself, A, that's impressive, and B, I bet he says something about what it should have been a win, really.
Yeah.
Because I know when he got second place on the grid at the Red Bull Ring in his second ever qualifying session, he didn't talk about, that's a fantastic, I'm really pleased with that. He talked about, I could have been on pole position, really, if we'd done this and we'd done that and I'd done that slightly differently. Sign of a winner, that, isn't it? And I just knew, and sure enough, I then read the quotes afterwards. He said, we could have won that race. So it just tells you the psychology. Yeah. He is not here thinking, oh, wow, this is amazing. Yeah, eyes wide open. Look, I can race against Thomas Preining. Look, I can race against Kelvin van der Linde. He's going into this thinking, I'm as good as anybody. I'm going to win this. I want to win races.
Yeah, I'm like, Finn, this is your 8th ever race, for goodness sake. You've already had a podium, but no, that's good. I mean, but that is the killer mentality that wins championships, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And absolutely brilliant. You were talking about Ferrari victories and things. We just recently had Mercedes-AMG Motorsport's 1,000th overall victory in its customer racing program.
That's amazing.
That's a phenomenal statistic, isn't it?
Absolutely. Right, track getting a bit busier. More cars heading out onto the track. Quite a lot still in the pits, but got a few heading out there now. See Marco Wittmann building up his pace. Nicki Thiim is out there. We've already seen Thomas Preining, Kelvin van der Linde out there. Ricardo Feller out there as well. He was on the podium with Bastian Buus at Misano as well. Good to see them get a result in GT World Challenge. That's been led by champions of 2 years ago, Luigi Auer and Maro Engel, our very own drivers, of course, had a double podium at Misano as well. So good to see them performing well elsewhere. I think the stat for Luigi Auer last year is he did 36 races, 36 race weekends last year. And bearing in mind, you can rule out, well, mostly, unless you go to the Middle East, rule out December and January. That is 36 race weekends out of what, a possible 44, something like that. Yeah. It's not many weekends off, is it? Yeah.
But I'd say that double podium last weekend for Luke and Maro Engel just goes to show how quick both of them are, how consistent they are, and we've said it all season long. Those two drivers have been so consistent so far this year, and that is why they are up there in the championship hunt, isn't it, in second and third, and only 9 and 11 points respectively behind Nicki Thiim. It's those consistent points finishes that win championships.
Yeah. Well, you and I were lucky enough to have a chat with Bernd Schneider, weren't we?
Oh.
On a little podcast that we do about the DTM.
Never heard of it.
He, of course, the 5-time champion, the most successful ever driver in the DTM in terms of wins, in terms of championships. He's mentoring Tom Callender, another talented young driver. As off goes Nicola Bart, straight on, understeers into the gravel trap. He'll get it out of the gravel trap, no dramas. But of course, that's going to ruin the lap for him. And that was on the way out of the chicane, out of turn 10, and that right-hander that leads onto the back straight. It might come in and just check the tyres over and make sure there's no gravel in the grill, but the car should be fine. Bernd Schneider looks after Tom Callender, youngest driver in the field and former GT Masters champion, and he said, look, you've got drivers like Maro Engel and Nicki Thiim who are out racing almost every single weekend, and it's tough for these young drivers because Tom Callender just has 8 race weekends in the DTM, and there's very limited testing, of course, in the DTM these days. So that's why he's encouraging drivers like Tom Callender and Finn Wieblas to go out and race in other things as much as they can just to get the track time, because he said if they're not racing, they're not behind the wheel of the car. You can't go out and do all the testing that you used to be able to go and do, which is tough for a young driver trying to bring up their experience levels. Just a straightforward, just understeer there, wasn't it, for that Aston Martin, Nicola Bart? Yeah. And that fantastic livery, that car, though. I mean, you never miss that one, would you? Come in. It looks great. I think the Come To You Racing liveries look brilliant this year. But Nicola, his second season at DTM, the Belgian driver, looking to improve, and he's getting close. It's just such a tough field out there, and he hasn't got loads and loads of GT3 experience, has he? His background initially was in front-wheel drive TCR touring cars.
Yeah, and it's not like he's a million miles off the pace. No. I mean, he's scored a couple of points, which is good.
Yeah,
but
everybody's scored now this year.
Yeah, and that's really good to see. But he's not like tugging around 2 seconds a lap slower. I mean, he's fractions off, and he's so close. And the rate of improvement that he's showing, if he can carry on with that, is going to be up there in the places before too long. And you just see there how easy it is to trip over in one of these cars, and you realise that you are running on the edge. And when we saw early in the season the entire field covered by 9/10 of a second, you realise that every last thousandth is going to count, and it's just all part of that learning curve. And it's great to have him in the field. He's certainly not an also-ran.
He's just put his best lap of the session in as well after
really
that.
Good, so, really good.
Yeah. 25.3. Here's Finn Wieblas. It's still only about half the cars on track. The rule actually in DTM is across the 2 free practice sessions, you have to do at least 50% of the potential running. So you can't just sit in the garage. It's to encourage cars out. I mean, why wouldn't you go out and get as much running as you can? I suppose the obvious thing would be if it, for example, were to rain during free practice, but you knew it was going to be dry on Saturday and Sunday, there might not be much point in running around. But it's to encourage drivers to be out there. So they have to, whatever the situation, do at least 50% of the available running across the 2 sessions. That doesn't mean you've got to do 50% of free practice 1 and 50% of free practice 2. You could miss most of free practice 1 but do all of free practice 2 and you'd still be okay. But it is frowned upon not to, and it's actually a regulation not to do much running at all in these sessions. So Gunnar, Preining and Engel all back in. 122.972, which is about 4.5 tenths off the fastest free practice 1 time from last year. But Gunnar off to a good start in the Mercedes. Preining second, Engel third. They're all in the pits. Bender is back on track. He's 4th in the McLaren. Ricardo Feller in the pits in the Porsche is 5th. Nicki Auer in the Mercedes 6th. He's gone back into the pits. Mirko Bortolotti 7th. He's becoming a pretty regular fixture in the sort of 5th to 10th positions, Mirko Bortolotti, which isn't where he wants to be as a former champion and multiple DTM race winner. But he's certainly a big step forward compared to where they were at the very first weekend at the Red Bull Ring in that Temerario. It's getting better all the time. Kelvin van der Linde 8th, Marco Wittmann 9th. So actually perhaps better than they do in a lot of the free practice sessions. Matteo Cairoli only 10th in the Ferrari. Teammate Emil Frey, Thierry Vermeulen in 11th, but they never really show their hand too much in free practice, the Ferraris. Timo Glock is 12th. Nicki Thiim, championship leader, is 13th. Luca Exler is 14th, former race winner here. And then in the pits, Tom Callender, Marco Mappelli and Finn Wieblas. They're 15th, 16th and 17th. And Miney, Bart and Boos. Boos hasn't done... he's done enough laps, hasn't he? But he hasn't done anything particularly quick yet. He's been around, but he's only done a low 125, so he's 2 seconds off the pace at the moment. So perhaps an issue for Bastian Boos there. Let's see if he can pull out any sort of decent lap time in the remaining 11 minutes of this session. Marco Mappelli, he's got grid penalty he's carrying this weekend, hasn't he?
Yeah, that was after a collision with...
Okay, mate, also just for reference, this was personal best Sector 1, so good job. And if you have a read on balance, let me know.
Yeah, that's actually a good job, both BMWs in the top 9, so that's pretty good going. Yes, Marco Mappelli, after that collision with Matteo Cairoli, and also with his teammate Luca Engstler, awkward much, at the Norrisring, has resulted in a 3-place grid drop for him, and Cairoli was very unhappy with his fellow Italian after that race, was quite vocal about that. Of course, he was a championship leader prior to the Norrisring, and has dropped down the order somewhat as a result of the traumas there. No doubt will be bouncing back. But yes, so Marco Mappelli's been sat on the naughty step, had to think about his actions, and now has a 3-place grid drop for the first race tomorrow.
Yeah, get the sense that Marco Mappelli is not top of the Christmas card list for Mirko Bortolotti either.
No, absolutely.
Those two came together in the pit lane, didn't they? At,
yes.
Where was it? Lausitzring, wasn't it? And was it Zandvoort? I can't remember now.
I think it was Zandvoort.
Zandvoort, yes,
yeah,
Zandvoort.
Yeah.
And also, there was a jump start at the Nürburgring 24-hour, wasn't there, for Marco Mappelli, and kind of ended up being a bit of a problem that for Mirko Bortolotti, putting back into the path of Danny Hunkerdale, and ended up getting hit and puncture and dropping to the back of the field on the first lap of the race. So
yeah, I think we'll summarise it. There's history between those two. That's enough said.
It's got a podium though, hasn't it, Marco Mappelli? Got that 2nd place finish, the first one for the Temerario. Right, improvements coming potentially. Well, there is a quicker lap for Börde. He's still 4th, but that's his best lap of the session, 1:23.5. And he's on a good lap here, and he goes 2nd quickest with that lap as he crosses the line. So Börde in the McLaren, 1:23.254. We've also got Arjun Maini improving up to 13th place. We've got Thierry Vermeulen on a quicker lap here in the Ferrari as well. The number 69 Verstappen.com liveried Ferrari, which currently is in 11th with a 1:23.9, but he's done 2 personal best sectors. We've got Bastian Buus with a personal best sector. It's not saying a lot because he hasn't gone quick at all so far this session. However, he's still half a second off the absolute best first sector time, Bastian Buus, so a bit of a struggle. Land actually put out an Instagram post saying, well, we've decided this is Bastian's home race because this is as close as we're going to get in the season to Denmark. But of course, as you said, that also makes it Nicki Thiim's home race, doesn't it? Essentially. Vermeulen improves up to 4th place with that lap. That is a 1:23.408. Maini, he's up to 13th as the other improver. Where's Bastian Buus going to end up? We're looking at Jules Gounon, who hasn't improved through the first sector, but certainly attacking the curbs, isn't he, Jules? As he makes his way onto the back straight, comes out of that corner where we saw Nicolas Bart go into the gravel trap last time out. 8 minutes of the session to go. Hits the brakes, goes from 230 kilometres an hour down to 130 into that right-hander. It's 3rd gear through the right, 3rd gear through the left that follows it, and then up into the final double right now, 155 through the penultimate turn, a bit wide on the exit into the last turn. It's only 2nd gear, that last turn, 95 degrees. Get on the gas as quick as you can, right to the edge of the circuit. It's not for the wanted trying that Jules is not going to go quicker on this lap, but he has done a pretty decent lap still, 1:23.7. However, 1:22.9 is still his absolute best. He's still nearly 3/10 quicker that lap than anybody else has managed, with Börde now 2nd and Thomas Preining 3rd.
Well, it's nice to see people pushing in free practice. We can see what the potential is, and Jules Gounon looks to be extracting as much as he can. A bit of a wobble under braking there as well.
It's a bit lively, that Mercedes, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, isn't it? That was around turn 3, the Hasseröder turn, and some very nice picturesque lakes on the left-hand side of the exit.
Mirko.
Mirko Bortolotti to the top of 1:22.744. That is well over 2/10 quicker than Jules Gounon. So that's come out of nowhere, hasn't it?
That's only a couple of tenths down on the best free practice one time from last year. So it's a competitive time, that. Will he stay top, though? Because Börde's done the absolute best middle sector with a 28.609 in the McLaren. And he's got no traffic ahead of him. So the 21-year-old, the driver 6th in the championship, making his way through the final turn now. And if he nails this on the exit, which he does just right to the edge of the circuit, it, almost into the gravel trap. This could be the fastest lap of the session, but it isn't. He's third. Jules Gounod is on the attack. He's done a personal best first sector. So Bortolotti still quickest. Yeah, Gounod's trying, that's for sure.
It's like quali this, isn't it? Yeah. I'm enjoying this very much.
Second.
Do you see all the debris and the gravel dragged out of turn 14 onto the track? I think there's quite a few people pushing hard. Mirko's gone quickest again in Sector 1, but Sector 2, what was that, 29.8, so it's a couple of tenths slower than the absolute best in Sector 2. But it's good to see drivers pushing this in this session.
Yeah, Durr is also on another good lap here. Personal best through the first sector, which is a 30.213. Now, that's only half a tenth slower than the absolute best, so it could be an improvement here. 124.685 for Bortolotti on that lap. So, really, two really good laps from Borto there. The 2024 champion. Here's Maro Engel, who's on a personal best lap as well. He slipped down to 6th place. See all the gravel on the circuit there as those have run wide have brought it back onto the track. He stays 6, exactly 0.6 of a second down. Looks like Bender has backed off in the middle sector a little bit. So, Bortolotti quickest, Gounod second. Quarter of a second between them. Preining, though, goes in between them. He goes second quickest with the 122.861. So, Gounod down to third, Dorr in fourth. Vermeulen is fifth, Engel's down to sixth, Feller 7th, Auer 8th. Look at Engstler's come up to 9th. And then in 10th place, Kelvin van der Linde, 11th, Marco Wittmann. Bender, backed off on that lap. It started well, but for whatever reason, he backed off out of it in the middle of the lap. Absolute best in the middle sector, though, for Luigi Auer, the blue Mercedes for Landgraf. He's 8th at the moment, and I think he's going to be 8th for very much longer, though. Just over 4 minutes of the session to go. That gravel's definitely a bit of an issue coming on the exit here. Last one out of the turn, about to cross the line. Flashing the headlights is Luigi Auer. Where's this going to put the Austrian? It puts him up to 4th quickest.
Brilliant stuff. So, everybody kind of turning it up a bit at the end. Now, Thomas Preining had a double purple on that previous lap. That was very good.
Sorry, Sector 2. I tried something, the double left. I've worked enough, sorry.
So I tried something. Sorry, it didn't work. The double left in Sector 2. He's saying so. I think triple left. That probably is, isn't it? The triple, as it's called. Tried it, didn't work. But that's also what free practice is about, isn't it? Trying different lines, trying to find where the grip is, trying to find how the car works. But really impressive from Mirko. Isn't that nice to see Mirko Bortolotti back to the top of a timing screen? I spoke too soon. Thomas Preining has just gone quicker than him. 122.619 for Tommy.
Wow. I was going to say, when was the last time we saw Mirko at the top of the timing screens? Because we haven't seen it this year with the Temeraria, but they're certainly getting on top of that. Well, he's come in, got a new set of tyres fitted, and he's back out into the fast lane. Ricardo Feller also improving, personal best in Sector 1. Here he comes. There's the chicane.
Hopping over those. I love that chicane. It's fantastic, isn't it?
Turn 8 and 9 into the McDonald's turn. And it is great. They just straight line it.
Yeah.
We used to put a camera in the bollards there, and then we realised that we were using cameras up quicker than we could buy them, I think. And yes.
Oh, Preining even quicker through the first sector. Feller's on a good one as well here. So his teammate in the green Manthey Porsche, already with one podium finish. Now, of course, these days a factory driver, Porsche factory driver, as he was indeed last year, but drove the Audi last year for Land. Here we go then. What's this going to put the Swiss driver up to second place? It's a 1-2 at the moment for Manthey. 122.672. It's only 53 thousandths of a second away from Preining, but Preining set the absolute best first sector. He is a 10th and a half down in the middle sector, though. He's got Finn Wiebelhaus ahead of him in the Grello Porsche. One thing you can say for sure is that no matter how things go for him and how down he might get about things and the external forces that he might feel are against him, he'll never give up, Thomas Preining. He's a proper street fighter, one of the most determined people you'll ever meet. And, 123.561 is, in the end, not a quick lap time compared to what he was doing. Still would put him in the middle of the top 10 that lap, but that 122.619, fantastic. Selected cars for scrutineering after the session, just some spot checks to go on. Preining then getting a bit of a face full of dust from Finn Wiebelhaus just ahead. How's Finn getting on 12th place at the moment, but on a personal best first sector?
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, keeping on top of all the scrutiny, which is good to see. Maro Engel still trying to extract more out. And Preining, purple again in Sector 1. Well, those tyres are lasting very nicely, aren't they? So another purple in Sector 1, 30.081. The quickest of anybody in Sector 1. We'll see whether he keeps that going. I don't know whether there's any nerves about BOP changes or anything. Doesn't appear to be, although his middle sector, 28.6, so that's about a tenth off the absolute quickest.
You can't really react to free practice as well, because as I said, you don't know what tyres they've got on, because these days, you know, they might have 1 or 2 or 3 sets of new tyres. You know, we're not party to that information, so somebody might look really quick, but they might be the only one on, you know, a really decent set of tyres. So you certainly can't, I don't think, look at BOP there. In the end, it is a quicker lap time though.
Yeah.
He gathered some back in that final sector, didn't he, with a 1:22.493. Wiebelhaus improved his time, but only moved up 1 place ahead of fellow teenager Tom Callender. They're 11th and 12th, the 19-year-old just ahead of the 18-year-old. And in comes Arjun Maini. Even at low revs, that rumble of that V8, absolutely fantastic. Nicki Thiim has got himself into the top 10 with an improvement late on as well, 1:23.374 for him, and what was it, 9/10 of a second between the top 12.
Well, for all the wailing and gnashing of teeth about BOP, it doesn't look like anybody is particularly off the pace, as far as I can see. The BMWs are up there as well, and it feels like it's a pretty level playing field at the moment. I can maybe stand corrected on that.
But you say that all the drivers are going to be happy with the BOP, and none of them are going to moan about it?
Not a single one of them.
Good luck with that.
Oh no, the opposite to
that. Right, so pretty lively end of the session. That was like a mini qualifying. That.
Great.
Fantastic. Thomas Preining, though, lays down his stout. Like, look, I might have not had a race win since the first weekend of the season. That's going to change this weekend, says Thomas Preining. And he lays down the marker with a very impressive lap time, which in the end is about a tenth, or just under a tenth quicker than the fastest free practice 1 lap time from last year. Tommy hasn't had a win here. He's had a pole in 2023. He's had 2 third-place finishes, 1 last year, 1 in 2023, and a 4th. But he's not yet been on the top step at Oschersleben, although we have had Porsche's winning races. His teammate Riccardo Fella is second, 0.179 seconds between them. But Mirko Bortolotti will be delighted with that, because he has managed to get 2nd place. I don't think he was at the top of the timing screen in any session last year either, was he, in that Lamborghini, I reckon, with Abt. It was a tough year there, so it's quite possibly the final round of 24 when he won the championship. He was fastest in that qualifying session and ended up winning the championship. That might well be the last time he was, although he wasn't quite at the top of the timing screen in the end, that high up in the top 3 in the end. He's also not had a win here, but had a 2nd place finish. Franck Pereira actually got the first Lamborghini win here at Oschersleben. So, good improvements for the Temerari. Got Luca Engel, who's been very, very impressive this year in that new car as well, looking pretty sharp in 8th place. So, positive stuff, really. In fact, the only brands that aren't represented in the top 10 were Ford, 12th and 17th. The BMWs in the end slipped back to 14th and 15th as well. There is your classification then. Thomas Preining heads a Manthey 1-2 ahead of his teammate Riccardo Fella, a 1:22.493. Mirko Bortolotti is an impressive 3rd. Maro Engel 4th, Lucas Auer 5th. They're always there. And Jules Goudon in 6th place. Then Börde, Luca Engel, Nicki Thiim and Matteo Corelli round out the top 10. So that's it from the first free practice session here at Oschersleben. Free practice 2 gets underway at 3:35 p.m. at local time. We'll be on air 5 minutes before that to talk you through it. From Brian Oliver and from me, Chris Hartley. Thanks for your company in free practice 1, and we'll speak to you again later on today here at Oschersleben for free practice 2 in just a few hours' time. Bye for now.
Freies Training im ADAC-Tourenwagen Junior Cup. Im Freies Training ADAC beim Jeder Design. Viel Spaß.